What do you associate the SoulsBorne games with? Is it the difficulty? The deep but unabashedly vague lore? The bosses? Well, for me, it has to be the sheer unadulterated horror of the enemy design. FromSoft have never been one to shy away from exploiting our fears and utilizing uncomfortable themes to make their characters both memorable and terrifying. Many moons ago, we covered our picks for the series' most impactful bosses, highlighting some of the many ways that the beloved developer can make their world's inhabitants unforgettable. And while that list covered a multitude of reasons why a good character can live indelibly in the memory, today we'll be looking at just the one reason: fear. A side note before we begin, we won't be mentioning Demon's Souls in this list. Not that it wouldn't make the cut, that's certainly not the case, but because we'll be dedicating an entire future compilation to the granddaddy of the Souls-like. So, look out for that, and let's look at some! I'm Ben from TripleJump, and here are the 10 scariest and strangest Soulsborne enemies. Number 10. Mimics. Dark Souls, Dark Souls 2, and Dark Souls 3. There's not a soul among us who survived their first encounter with a mimic, and if you say you did, then you're a liar! This is mainly due to its deceptive nature. A wooden chest in gaming has always had positive connotations. You feel a sense of joy as you know that a reward is coming, relief that you've made it to the end of your current quest, and accomplishment that you know you've progressed to another milestone. Then came the mimics, undoing a lifetime's worth of goodwill that the humble chest had built up. Their disguise caught everybody off guard, opening what you thought was a standard chest only to be mercilessly munched into oblivion like you were a hobnob in the hands of some famished biscuit addict. We've never known betrayal like it. Mimics are infamous within the Souls series, making it into all 3 of the Dark Souls games. They are so memorable, in fact, that even when you realize there aren't any in Bloodborne, you'll still whack every chest before opening it just to make sure. Admit it, you do it too. Number 9. Monstrosity of Sin, Dark Souls 3. Found in an optional side section of the profaned capital, a lot of you may have missed the Monstrosity of Sin entirely. Plus, outside a couple of unmarked side quests, there's not much point in actually going there in the first place. And it's a frightfully unpleasant location. Can't forget that. Found in a chamber by a poison swamp which houses another twisted terror, the sewer centipede, you'll find 3 of the chunky hippo bear things rolling around the room like drunken babies. Look a bit closer and you'll see that they have a giant human hand for a face and a chest full of eyes. Only then do you realize the true anomaly that is the Monstrosity of Sin. There's a lot of dread to be found in strangeness. The fear of the unknown is, in fact, rooted in all of us. So seeing a combination of things that we all know put together in an order that is entirely unexpected speaks to that very primal side of us. And these malformed Care Bears certainly fit the description. Number 8. Labyrinth Madman, Bloodborne. Your initial confidence will quickly turn meek when what seems like your basic undead zombie-type creature turns into an imposing, deadly, and nimble-footed horror in an instant. In the Souls series, you can often tell if an enemy will give you trouble by what they look like. A mighty knight will most certainly batter you into the ground. No, please don't! While a mouldy chap wielding a broken sword and wearing rags is probably going to be brushed aside with ease. The Labyrinth Madman, however, can catch you by surprise. While relatively unassuming at first, it's their erratic nature that garners your attention. You'll soon come to realize that their sheer rampant pace, unpredictability, and high damage output takes every encounter with the Labyrinth Madman up to a whole other level of challenge. Oh, and the way it never closes its mouth is quite unsettling too. They even have a corpse-wielding variation, which is nice. So you can be clubbed to death with the very entity you originally perceived the Labyrinth Madman to be. I'm also not okay with the noises they make.
And then he started crying again.
Number 7. Chaos Eaters, Dark Souls. Another one that can firmly nestle its way into the strange category, Dark Souls 1's Chaos Eaters are what happens when the piranha plants from Mario aren't having a good day. They function as a sort of walking blender, waiting for either some unknowing prey to fall into its open mouth from above, or for something to come close enough below that it can grab it. Much like the Monstrosity of Sin, the Chaos Eater has a lot of scattered eyes about its torso, adding an unexpected anthropomorphic tone to what you would have previously thought of as just a feisty plant. there's a very real chance that you may happen upon a group of Chaos Eaters unintentionally by falling into a pit of the spooky shrubs from a precariously narrow platform. I think it may be the abnormality of the Chaos Eaters' design that makes them so scary. The fact that they are so unlike anything else in the series catches you by surprise. In a world of malformed monstrosities and deformed demons, a bulbous blender plant monster is the last item on your list of expectations. Number 6. Invaders. Entire SoulsBorne series. Is there anything more intimidating than seeing the Invaded by Dark Spirit banner? Especially when you aren't prepared and are deep into a new area. It doesn't matter if it's an NPC or a player, it can be a horrible feeling if you're just out minding your own business and an invader comes along to ruin your day. The main fear comes from not knowing how good your adversary will be, or where they'll even be coming from. You'll do your best, prepare your finest weapons and buffs, only for them to appear nearby and swiftly club you back into the ground. It's the risk of losing your souls that's also a worry. You decided to soldier on after defeating a boss, opting not to return to spend your collected currency and instead proceeded far into the next area. Then the tension mounts as you regret your decision not to play it safe, and all of a sudden you see that invasion message pop up, your heart drops out of your bottom, and the temptation to leap from a nearby cliff is suddenly overwhelming. Horrific. Number 5. Deep Accursed. Dark Souls 3. The first encounter with a Deep Accursed inside the Cathedral of the Deep is an emotionally scarring experience. You see a single collectible on the other side of a large room. Your video game knowledge dictates that an area of this size has to contain something menacing, but you see nothing. Your curiosity takes over and you go for it. Tentatively edging your way into the room, you eventually reach the other side, but nothing happens. On your way back to the exit, when you're at your most confident, a giant, hairy spider creature with an almost human face and a body covered in corpses falls from the ceiling, blocking your exit. Oh, Jesus! The Deep Accursed is a true creation of horror. Everything about it is horrible. Thankfully, there are only 2 in Dark Souls 3, and both can be easily exploited with nearby doorways or boundaries, slightly lessening the fear. Nevertheless, the Deep Accursed can be a formidable challenge if faced one-on-one. That is, of course, if you've got the stomach for it. Number 4. Winter Lanterns. Bloodborne. The Winter Lanterns are also known as a brain trust, but that name is rubbish, so I refuse to use it. Have you ever watched the film Mars Attacks and thought, it's good, but what if the aliens were 1,000 times more disgusting and could drive me insane with a stare? Oh, you haven't? Well, Bloodborne went ahead and did it anyway. You're welcome. The thing that makes the Winter Lanterns especially terrifying isn't the frenzy it causes, the visual design, or even the movement, though they all certainly contribute. It's the creepy song it sings. Honestly, have a listen. La, la, la. La, la. Horrible, right? The Winter Lantern song is so unsettling because it's so not right. You see a gangly brain on a stick shuffling around and making a vile slurping noise when all of a sudden it begins singing a haunting, almost angelic hymn. Stealth has always made for a tense mechanic in games. Having to silently creep around an enemy, worried that at any moment you could alert them and bring about your untimely doom, is enough to make the bravest soul crumble.
Oh no, he turned around and saw you. Oh, he just shot you as well.
Oh no.
Oh, snake.
This is too hard.
Now, imagine having to do it around a singing Winter Lantern. Number 3. Skeleton Beasts. Dark Souls. The biggest threat to be found in the Tomb of Giants is the unending pitch black darkness. Second, being the skeleton beasts. What? You will wander into walls, bottomless pits, and most unfortunately, into the waiting jaws of these skeletal human-dog hybrids. If it wasn't for these evil creations, the area would be manageable, but because they can do so much damage as well as leap unexpectedly out of the darkness, it can make it nigh on impossible without some serious prior preparation. The skeleton beasts are best described as a perennial jump scare. It's all they exist to do. Well, that and frustrate every player that encounters their armor-ignoring attacks. It's impressive to see a skeleton enemy made genuinely scary. Even since the early days of gaming, the skeleton has been an overused cliché, so for it to become a legitimate cause for fear in Dark Souls is a testament to just how good From Software are. They'll forever make us want to snap a controller in frustration, and I'll never wish them to stop doing so. No, stay away! Number 2. Ludwig the Accursed, Bloodborne. This spot could have also gone to the Orphan of Kos, another worthy Bloodborne boss, but to me, he was more sad than strange, but I digress. There's been a distinct lack of bosses so far on this list, and for good reason. You know what you're getting with a boss. You expect them to be the pinnacle of what the game can throw at you, but when you consider a boss in a Souls game, one usually full of many living nightmares, it means that they should be the scariest and strangest part, right? But it's that exact expectation that nulls the shock. It's the peons, the lesser enemies, that are the ones that will surprise you the most as you aren't anticipating them. However, this argument falls apart when it comes to Ludwig the Accursed. Ludwig has the weirdness. He is a deformed wolf-horse-human hybrid after all. Ludwig also has the scariness, the vast size and constant soul-piercing scream being prime examples. The grandeur of the boss fight itself being the opposite of Ludwig's depraved design is partly what brings the fear, because as has been the case before, it plays with your usual notions and rubbishes expectation. Considering that Bloodborne on average has the most nauseating character design out of any of From Software's games, for Ludwig to possibly be the most unpalatable of them all is a testament to his placement on this list. Congratulations, horrifying demon creature, you earned it. Number 1. Wretch, Dark Souls 3. We've had enemies on this list that, upon first encounter, would make even the staunchest horror fan backtrack like a politician under questioning, though none can hold a candle to the Wretch. After leaving the relative safety of the scenic and bright Irithyll of the Boreal Valley, you come across the Irithyll Dungeons, the most terrifying place in all of Dark Souls 3. Screaming corpses, walking cages, and brand-wielding jailers with a penchant for draining your health are all to be found in this heinous environment. Where did it all go wrong? I was so much happier out here. The absolute worst atrocity in the dungeon is certainly the Wretch. Even the name itself should clue you into just how bad these things are. Your first meeting will be with a dormant one clinging to a wall in the darkness, its expressionless, humanoid face staring blankly at you. The second time you meet one, there'll be a glowing item nearby. Naturally, you'll expect it to be like your first meeting, so you confidently charge in, only for it to leap attack you while screaming in your face! Body horror is something that SoulsBorne games have perfected. A twisted version of the human form will always be scarier than something entirely of fiction, and the Wretch is the epitome of it. I'll be seeing you in my nightmares again tonight, Wretch. And that's our list. This has been but a taste of the spooky creatures that SoulsBorne games have to offer, and there's plenty more that could make for a good list themselves. It's going to be interesting to see how far FromSoft will go with their next project. You can follow myself and TripleJump on Twitter here, and while you're at it, why not support the things you enjoy by having a look at our Patreon. Finally, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. I'm Ben from TripleJump, and thanks for watching.